Good morning. I'm Stephen Schwartz, publisher of the Bulletin of the Atomic Scientists.
February 27th, 2002, a news conference in Chicago. There, George Lopez, chairman of the board for a magazine called Bulletin of the Atomic Scientists, issued a warning.
The September 11th attacks and the subsequent and probably unrelated use of the mail to deliver deadly anthrax spores breached previous boundaries for terrorist acts and should have been a full global wake-up call. Moving the clock's hands at this time reflects our growing concern that the international community has simply hit the snooze button rather than respond to the full alarm.
Time, he said, was running out. To make the point dramatically clear, Nobel Prize-winning physicist Leon Lederman set the minute hand at 7 minutes to midnight on a symbolic timepiece dubbed the Doomsday Clock. It ominously suggested the nuclear danger the world faced.
Anything inside 10 minutes is worthy of pretty serious concern. We think about both the events that have happened, which is normally what the clock responds to, and we think about what's likely to happen in the future.
Since 1947, the minute hand of the Doomsday Clock has moved forward or backward 17 times as events have heightened or lessened the possibility of a nuclear war.
The Enola Gay arrived at 8:11 a.m. In 10 seconds, the world will shake.
In August 1945, the United States detonated its first nuclear weapons in Japan, ending World War II. The bomb's awesome power and the deaths of more than 100,000 people under the mushroom clouds in Hiroshima and Nagasaki greatly troubled some scientists. They were part of the Manhattan Project, the government's atomic bomb program.
They were afraid that they had unleashed a genie that could not ever be bottled, but they were going to do their damnedest to try to bottle it up again.
Immediately after the war, a group of former Manhattan Project chemists and physicists began meeting in Chicago. Among them, John A. Simpson, inventor of a plutonium detection instrument; Harold C. Urey, a 1934 Nobel Prize winner in chemistry; Alexander Langsdorf, the inventor of a chamber for tracking cosmic rays; and Eugene Rabinowitch, co-author of the June 1945 memorandum that had urged the Secretary of War not to use the bomb against Japan.
They wanted to break down the walls of secrecy, involve the public, and help them understand what this really meant for our future. And they were all motivated by that feeling, all of them.
They call themselves the Atomic Scientists of Chicago, and they wanted to open the eyes of the public and policymakers about the significance of atomic power. So they published a newsletter called Bulletin of the Atomic Scientists of Chicago in December 1945.
They founded it also out of their desire to ensure that nuclear weapons would never again be used, and that mankind might perhaps learn to harness the potential benefits of atomic energy.
44-year-old Eugene Rabinowitch, a Russian immigrant, became the Bulletin's first editor-in-chief. It was a title he held for more than 20 years.
He was a small man, a round man, a very humble one, if you will, and really brilliant. There's no question about that. And he was a man dedicated, really dedicated, to the belief that science was a positive force in the world and for the benefit of people. And that's really what kind of pushed him forward all the time.
Initially, the Bulletin was simply a 6-page mimeograph journal. By 1947, circulation was up, and a magazine replaced the newsletter format.
And so the editors asked Martyl, a local artist who was also married to one of the founders of the bulletin, Martyl Langsdorf, to come up with something to put on the cover.
One of the founders, Hy Goldsmith, knew about me as an artist. He gave no instructions. All he said is, it can't cost much. There never was any money. So I did several concepts, and I thought about it. All the scientists felt an urgency to explain what had happened with the bomb. And because of the extreme urgency, I remember the clock seemed to be important.
Martyl's plan was to repeat a clock design every month on a different background color. In June 1947, the first bulletin clock cover appeared. It depicted the final quadrant of a clock face with a minute hand approaching midnight. The message was clear. The end of time was drawing close. While Martyl intended the clock image as a whole to convey a psychological sense of imminent danger, placing the minute hand at 7 minutes to midnight was simply a matter of aesthetics.
I chose 7 minutes because it seemed the right time on the page. It was the right design. It left room for the contents, and it just suited my eye.
The following month, Eugene Rabinowicz's essay to readers explained the symbolism of the clock of doom, as he called it.
It represents the state of mind of those whose closeness to the development of atomic energy does not permit them to forget that their lives and those of their children, the security of their country, and the survival of civilization all hang in the balance as long as the specter of atomic war has not been exorcised.
October 1949. President Harry Truman made an announcement that brought real meaning to the Doomsday Clock.
We have been confronted with a new, powerful imperialism.
The United States, he said, had evidence of an atomic explosion in the Soviet Union. The bulletin's editors knew that the East-West nuclear arms race that they had foreseen was now underway.
The scientists explained very calmly that once it's obvious to the world that such weapons can be built, it's only a matter of time before they will be built by any technically competent country with access to the right materials and the right knowledge.
In response to the Soviets' atomic bomb, Rabinowicz wrote in the October 1949 issue,
"We do not advise Americans that doomsday is near, and that they can expect atomic bombs to start falling on their heads a month or a year from now. But we think they have reason to be deeply alarmed and to be prepared for grave decisions."
To dramatize the point, Rabinowicz reset the clock's minute hand on the bulletin's cover, 3 minutes to midnight. The clock unexpectedly took on new meaning for the magazine's editors.
Suddenly they realized they had a very important tool here that could help educate people. And in the beginning, it was certainly seen as a way to tell quickly and symbolically a public out there that, gee, life is better or life is not so good. Things are changing, you better watch out.
But the clock's symbolism didn't fully capture the public's attention until the explosion of a new, more powerful weapon of mass destruction.